How many times have you found yourself worried about what people might be thinking about you? Maybe you felt small in the face of critical looks or lost sleep over a negative comment. The truth is that this constant concern with external approval can distance us from who we really are. The Stoics, wise men who faced life's challenges with enviable serenity, taught us that we don't need to carry the weight of other people's opinions. Imagine waking up every day with the conviction that you are enough, and that you don't need to prove anything to anyone but yourself. It's liberating, isn't it? Today, we're going to explore this principle that can change your relationship with the world and with yourself. I'm going to share how this simple but powerful idea can transform your thoughts and give you strength you never imagined you had. But before we start, subscribe to the channel. Here, we've created together a space to strengthen the mind and nourish the spirit with reflections that bring you closer to a lighter and more authentic life. Part 1. Recognizing your inner value. The Stoics taught us that the true measure of a person is their virtue and character, not how they appear to others. Marcus Aurelius, in his writings, reflected on how each of us carries within us a spark of something greater, something that cannot be diminished by the opinions of others or external circumstances. It is this spark that makes us enough just as we are. Repeating to yourself, "I am enough," is a reminder that you do not need to conform to anyone else's expectations. We live in a world where we are constantly compared, where social media and opinions surround us like voices questioning our worth. But according to the Stoics, all of this is just noise. What really matters is the relationship you have with yourself. This recognition of your own worth does not mean that you should settle for or ignore your flaws. On the contrary, accepting that you are enough is the first step to improving yourself from a place of self-compassion, not harsh judgment. When you embrace this daily practice, something extraordinary happens. You stop looking outside for validation and start connecting with what really matters: your actions, your principles, and your ability to face life with integrity. Thus, the phrase "I am enough" becomes a shield against criticism and a guide to a more fulfilling life. Part 2. The power of self-acceptance. Self-acceptance is perhaps one of the greatest challenges of our existence. We live in a world where we are constantly pressured to meet external expectations, whether through appearance, success, or behavior. But what the Stoics teach us is that true strength comes when we accept ourselves completely, with all our flaws and virtues. Marcus Aurelius once again reminds us that the human soul is shaped by the thoughts we cultivate. So, when we repeat to ourselves, "I am enough," we are making room for self-acceptance, an acceptance that does not demand perfection, but that values what is already within us. We are what we choose to be, and the beauty of life lies precisely in embracing our humanity, with its imperfections, without fear of other people's judgment. By understanding and internalizing that we are worthy of what we seek, regardless of the circumstances, we begin to cultivate inner peace. This peace does not come from the approval of others, but from the certainty that we are already complete. Self-acceptance allows us to be authentic. It allows us to rest in the knowledge that we do not have to be something we are not to be valuable. It is not easy, and this acceptance is a daily task. But with the constant practice of affirming yourself, you begin to realize that external criticism does not carry the same weight. What matters is how you see yourself, and that vision must be free from comparison and full of self-respect. To be enough for the Stoics is to understand that the greatest commitment we can make is to our own peace of mind. And this peace arises when we accept that, in and of itself, we are worthy. Part 3. Freeing yourself from judgment. One of the great lessons that Stoic philosophy offers us is the understanding that we cannot control the opinions of others. But what we can control, and with wisdom, is our reaction to those opinions. Epictetus, one of the main figures in Stoicism, taught us that it is not the things that happen to us, but our attitude towards them that affects us. Living under the weight of other people's judgment can paralyze us. We start to make decisions based on what others will think, and this limits our growth, placing us in an invisible prison where our freedom depends on external acceptance. Stoicism, on the other hand, proposes to us the freedom to be who we are without depending on the approval or disapproval of others. When we repeat to ourselves, It doesn't matter what others think. We are, in fact, embracing our emotional autonomy. We are freeing ourselves from a vicious cycle of external validation, in which we are shaped by the expectations of others, and we begin to build our identity based on our own values and decisions. This kind of freedom is powerful. It does not mean being insensitive to opinions, but choosing not to let them determine our peace or our actions. This principle helps us live more authentically. Each day, as we stop seeking the approval of others, we gain more confidence in our choices because we begin to act based on what we truly believe is right, not on what others think is right. Freedom begins here, the moment you decide that your happiness does not depend on the views of others but on your own view of yourself. Part 4. Sufficiency as strength. In the Stoic context, being enough is not just a state of passive acceptance, but rather an act of strength. For the Stoics, true strength comes from within, not from external circumstances. When we repeat the phrase, "I am enough," we are declaring that regardless of what happens around us, we have the capacity and resilience necessary to face any challenge. Sufficiency does not mean that we should not seek growth or improvement. In the Stoic view, man should always strive for excellence within his possibilities. However, the idea of being enough is deeply linked to the notion that we already have everything we need to live a full life, within our virtues and capabilities. This strength is born when we understand that happiness and peace do not depend on external achievements, such as money or recognition. What defines us is our ability to live according to our values and principles, maintaining integrity regardless of what the world may offer us. By internalizing the idea that we are already complete, the need for external validation disappears, and we become firmer in our choices and more decisive in our actions. Sufficiency is, therefore, a state of balance. It is not resignation, but the deep understanding that we are responsible for our happiness and that peace comes from within. When you affirm that you are sufficient, you are cultivating an unshakable inner strength, a confidence that nothing can shake. It is the freedom to be who you are, without depending on what others think or expect of you. Part 5. Breaking with comparison. Constant comparison with others is one of the greatest enemies of inner peace. In the modern world, we are constantly bombarded with images of success, happiness, and fulfillment. Social networks, media, and even our closest social circles can make us believe that we need to be or have something more to be complete. But Stoic philosophy invites us to break out of this trap of comparison. Epictetus teaches us that happiness is not in having what others have, but in living in accordance with our own nature and with what truly brings us satisfaction. When we repeat to ourselves, "I am enough," we are, in effect, rejecting the idea that our happiness should be based on external standards. Comparison is a distraction that takes us away from what is truly important: our individual journey, our growth, and our peace of mind. By breaking with comparison, we begin to look at our lives with a clearer and truer perspective. Instead of measuring our success by what others achieve, we begin to measure our lives by our own evolution, our choices, and the impact we have on ourselves and those around us. This gives us a more authentic sense of purpose and helps us cultivate gratitude for what we already have and who we are. The Stoics warn us that comparison gets us nowhere. It only creates frustration and anxiety. By embracing the idea of being enough, you free yourself from the constant search for something that is not yours, and you begin to live with the knowledge that the only person you should compare yourself to is the person you were yesterday. Part 6. Training the mind. Stoic philosophy teaches us that just as the body needs training to stay healthy, the mind also requires constant practice to stay balanced and resilient. Repeating affirmations like, "I am enough" daily is not just a symbolic act, but an exercise that strengthens our ability to deal with life's challenges. The human mind is a powerful tool, but it is often shaped by automatic thought patterns that are not necessarily constructive. Over time, these patterns can lead us to doubt our own strength or worth. Stoicism, however, invites us to reprogram our minds, training them to focus on what is essential and true. By doing so, the idea of being enough goes from a simple phrase to a deeply ingrained belief. Repeating "I am enough" every day creates a gradual cognitive shift. Each time you say it, you are challenging negative thoughts and replacing them with a positive affirmation based on self-knowledge and self-compassion. This practice of self-suggestion not only improves our self-esteem, but also helps us deal with difficult situations with greater serenity and clarity. The mind begins to focus on what is already within us, the strength, capacity, and worth that never depend on the outside world. Training the mind in this way is a constant investment. The Stoics tell us that time and energy devoted to cultivating a healthy mindset are never wasted. The practice of self-compassion and acceptance, through daily repetition, can gradually alter our perception of reality, allowing us to live in a way that is more aligned with our true nature. Part 7. Creating an emotional shield. One of the greatest lessons of the Stoics is the ability to maintain our inner peace intact, regardless of external circumstances. For them, true wisdom lies in not letting what happens around us shake our balance. "It doesn't matter what others think" is a powerful thought that, when practiced, acts as a true emotional shield, protecting us from the storms of external judgment and criticism. The world is full of voices, some of which may be cruel, others critical or even well-intentioned. But all of them have the power to affect our emotional state if we do not have a well-established shield. However, the Stoics teach us that our happiness should not be determined by these external voices. Instead of reacting impulsively to everything others think or say about us, we should cultivate an attitude of indifference toward opinions that do not contribute to our growth or well-being. When we repeat, "I don't care what others think," we are arming ourselves against destructive criticism and constant comparisons. This mantra helps us create a healthy distance between ourselves and the opinions of others, allowing us to filter out what is truly valuable and ignore what is not. This emotional shield gives us the freedom to act according to our convictions, without fear of retaliation or disapproval. This shield does not make us insensitive, but teaches us to respond more rationally and calmly to criticism. Instead of allowing ourselves to be consumed by judgments, we can choose how we react while maintaining our peace. Stoicism shows us that true power lies in choosing how we deal with situations, not in how others see us. Building this emotional shield does not happen overnight, but is a constant exercise in self-control and reflection. Part 8. The value of time. The Stoics believe that time is our most precious commodity. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, constantly reminds us that life is short and that every moment wasted worrying about what others think is a moment in which we may be moving away from our true purpose. When we repeat to ourselves, "I am enough," we are, in effect, taking ownership of our time, freeing it from external influences, and investing it in what really matters, our own evolution. In our current society, we are often encouraged to spend our time trying to please others, seeking their approval, or conforming to others' expectations. But the time we spend trying to be something we are not or worrying about what others think is time that we will never get back. Stoic philosophy teaches us that we should spend our hours wisely, focusing on what we can control and on the things that truly contribute to our growth and well-being. When you affirm "I am enough," you are also affirming that your time is worth more than external validation. You are choosing to invest in your self-development, your inner peace, and your true happiness. This does not mean being indifferent to others or ignoring their needs, but it does mean that the time you dedicate to yourself is sacred and should be used consciously. When you understand the value of time, you begin to realize that by living in search of external approval, you are wasting precious opportunities for personal growth. Repeating to yourself, "I am enough," is a way of honoring your own time, of remembering that every second is a chance to connect with your true essence and build the life you truly desire. Part 9. The freedom to be imperfect. One of the most common traps in our quest for acceptance is the idea that we must be perfect in order to be worthy of love, respect, or happiness. However, the Stoics teach us exactly the opposite. True freedom comes when we accept our imperfections and understand that the pursuit of perfection is an illusion. Being enough does not mean being unbeatable or infallible, but rather being able to recognize our flaws and still accept ourselves completely. Instead of seeing our imperfections as weaknesses, the Stoics teach us to use them as an opportunity for growth. Seneca, for example, believed that our ability to improve comes precisely from recognizing our limitations and constantly striving to overcome life's adversities. By telling ourselves, "I am enough," we are actually freeing ourselves from the pressure to be perfect all the time. we are allowing ourselves to fail, learn, and grow. Perfection is a social construct that serves no purpose in living a fulfilling life. What matters is how we deal with setbacks, how we pick ourselves up after we fall, and how each day we strive to become a truer version of ourselves. Accepting imperfection gives us immense freedom. When you allow yourself to be human, with all your flaws and virtues, you break the chains of self-criticism and external pressure. And in doing so, you make room for true inner peace because you understand that in reality you are enough just the way you are, now and always. Part 10. The continuous practice of self-reliance. The final lesson of the Stoics is that constant practice is what truly shapes our lives. Saying "I am enough" once is not enough. It is a daily commitment to our own peace and growth. The great Stoic philosophers, such as Seneca and Epictetus, knew that wisdom is not something we achieve all at once, but something we cultivate moment by moment. And so each repetition of this affirmation becomes another opportunity to strengthen our emotional autonomy. Self-reliance for the Stoics does not mean isolation or rejection of the world. Rather, it is the ability to find balance within oneself, regardless of external pressures. When you repeat to yourself, "I am enough," you are committing to living in accordance with your own truth, to making decisions based on what is best for your well-being, and to not allowing external factors to determine your worth. The continued practice of this philosophy requires consistency and patience. Like any habit, it needs to be cultivated over time. At first, it may seem challenging or even pointless, but over time you will notice the internal transformation. You will begin to act and live with more confidence, less concern about the judgment of others, and more focus on what really matters. The culmination of this process is true freedom. The freedom to live authentically, without the pressure of meeting other people's expectations, with the certainty that in and of itself, you are enough. The Stoics taught us that our peace is within us, and it is up to us to nurture it every day. So keep practicing, keep affirming, and trust. The transformation will come with time. Now that we have explored together the powerful lessons that Stoic philosophy has to offer us about self-sufficiency, self-acceptance, and the value of inner freedom, remember, the practice is continuous. Each day is a new opportunity to reaffirm that you are already enough and that the peace you seek is within you. If you connected with this content and want more reflections that help strengthen your mind and soul, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, we will continue to explore profound ideas that can transform the way you see the world and yourself. Let's go together in search of self-knowledge, wisdom, and true freedom. Until the next video.